this panel actually is an opportunity to allow the panelists to introduce themselves and to share with us their ancestry search journey. Okay, so without further ado, let me invite panelists. They have their turns, they know already who is to start and to continue. I would like to invite all the panelists to take their turns to introduce themselves and to tell us about your ancestry search journey. So let me start with Fatia.
Okay, hello and good afternoon, everyone. I am Fatia Abdul Samad. I'm a calligrapher, Arabic calligrapher, and also a batik researcher. I graduated in Arabic language and literature, but then I have a master's in traditional art. So that's when I started searching for my ancestry. And I'm a Boyanese. So for the Boyan fam here, thank you for coming. So I'm representing you today.
There's supposed to be slides here, so if you want to carry on and refer to the slides, yeah, here it is. Yeah.
Okay, so I think you just start. Yeah. So I was asked actually when I started to search for my ancestry. It was actually after my grandmother passed away. So I've got her pictures here. I just found all these pictures. So she passed away 4 years ago. I was very close to her. She lives with me. I was actually her shadow, basically, because I think in the Balinese culture, some of you may not know, the first daughter is a very important icon in the family. So we have to always be on standby if, like, for example, our mother or our grandmothers are not in the household. So we will be the one people, yeah, we are actually holding the fort at home. So I was trained under her wings because she lives with me and she passed away 4 years ago. That was the first time after her passing, my parents decided to go back to the island. So it was the third time for my mother and the first time for me. And it has been quite a very personal, emotional journey because as much as I identify myself as Boyanese, my IC is Boyanese because I don't think you can be as Boyan as I am. Like my father is Boyanese, my mom is Boyanese. Both grandparents came from Boyan all the way to Singapore. So both of them are Boyanese. So I never thought I would have another ancestry link to me until the current search I did 2 months ago when I myself went on my own to Bawean to search for my great-great-grandfathers, and I realized that I actually have a Javanese ancestry. Yeah, you won't have, you know, I thought I'm like, you know, like the pure blood of Boyanese, but you're actually not.
Surprise, surprise.
Surprise. Yeah. So what triggers, let me just share what triggers me to deep further into my ancestry is because, so 3 years ago, I went for my master's degree in London. I was a student in the King's Foundation School of Traditional Art, opened by His Excellency King Charles himself. So I'm a calligrapher. So I thought, I went to London to learn about Islamic architecture. So the school is about learning patterns from architectural buildings, religious buildings. So I came as a calligrapher. I wanted to graduate as a calligrapher. But then, one of my tutors, I had a private tutor with her. She called me in and she said, Noor, where do you come from? So I said, I came from Singapore and I'm a Malay. I've been telling you a lot of times already. Like, why are you not convinced? I'm a Malay and I'm Singapore. And And then she said, where did your parents came from? I said, they came from, they were born in Singapore, they're Malay as well. And then she looked at me and said, no, where did your grandparents came from? At this point, I was already pissed. Because, I mean, what more do you need from me? My culture is Malay. You don't need to know further. But I still answered because these are all marks, okay? So I need to answer her. So I was like, my grandparents came from a small island in Indonesia. And then she went like, you got your heritage already. That's your heritage. Can you go back to that island, learn the traditional art of that island, come back here and educate us? So that was the first time I think I felt seen as a Boyanese. Like, she knows I came from a small island. It's not even like Indonesia. Of course, at that point of time, I think she treated me like an Indonesian, of course. But I said, I came from this island. I couldn't just go back whenever I want. So I even showed her I Googled it in front of her and showed her, this is the island, it's in the middle of the sea. And it's November now, it's monsoon. I can't be going, if I go back, I might not come out on time for my flight. That's the challenges, you know. That's the challenge of going back to Bawean Island. You get stuck if the weather is not good. The sea is so uncertain. So then she told me, fine then, is there any other way you can bring an art from Indonesia, but of course we prefer from that island, to come and bring it back to London, teach us, so that we can learn from you. So I felt so appreciated when she said that. How can a white person came up to me and throw it in my face that I see you, I want to learn from you, and whatever art you will bring to the table, we are going to commemorate it, we're going to appreciate it, okay? We are going to make it part of us here now. And I mean, it's a King's School. Like, to bring your own, we are very small. I mean, yeah, we're Malay is big lah. But if you go Boyanese, it's so small. I've met a lot of Indonesians in London, and none of them know where Bawean Island is. There's only one of them knew, but because she works in Gresik, but she's never been there before. So it's not easy to tell people that this is who I am, this is where I came from. It's leceh, you know? Right? It's easier to identify yourself as Malay. So since that day onwards, I started researching on Indonesia. I've never explored Indonesia before because I am always proud to be Singaporean, Malay. And I've always tell people I'm from Singapore, you need not know anything more than me being Singaporean. So on that day onwards, it was an awakening actually. It's a spiritual journey, to be honest. Going back, tracing where you came from, and understanding why your family behaves in a certain manner. You only realize it after you go back to that island, and then you see everyone is behaving the same way. The thing is, I think this is one of the stereotypes, not very stereotypes, actually a fact as well. Like, Boyanese are loud, because we're coastal people, we're loud, okay? And we are so we have this culture of polong-polong, which means to be together. We do everything together. And we are very social people. You're forced to be an extrovert. There is no word, you cannot find introvertedness in our vocabulary, never. But even if, you know, like, you have to be an extrovert. So I think this polong-polong culture is very deep into especially my family. None of them are here today because we have a wedding in Malacca, and attending a wedding is so important because they have to be together. The moment I know 6th of June, there's a wedding in Malaysia, I know nobody will come to this event. Okay, because it's so important to be there together. So when I was there in London, isolated, staying alone, living alone, it actually tested my identity. This identity that my parents have given me to always be socially available to everyone. We have Thanksgiving almost every month, 2-3 times a month, and then you're alone. So I feel like, look, I cannot live alone. Okay, let's just see what did my ancestors do when they are alone in the middle of the sea, when they're traveling here. So it brought back a lot of, I don't know, it's like from being Singaporean, now you're like doing research on Indonesia as if Indonesia is where you were born. I feel like it's a special journey. happening in London, and I was in the middle. I was the only Southeast Asian in the school, the only Malay. I feel like after that moment onwards, I was not just representing myself as an artist, I was representing my whole community with me in London.
Thank you so much for that sharing. It's a very, very important start, right, to, I think, a very exciting journey. So, could you pass the mic to Sarafian?
Good afternoon, everyone. Allow me to stand up to show you how beautiful the Bugis dress is. Thank you. Okay, I sit down again. Okay, if Fatia says that the Boyanese is a very small community in Singapore, the Bugis is non-existent. So why I say that? Because from my own experience in my family, we were only told that we are a Malay. And we keep that identity until I start to rediscover some place names, some people, and even through social media. So there was one time in 2005 when I took a photograph of some of the places in Singapore, like Masjid Temenggung in Teluk Belanga. So I showed my mom. My mom told me that this is a Bugis legacy. So I said, oh, okay. Then if you say Bugis, why must you speak in a very soft fashion? And then she said, because the Bugis were very violent people. And my sister just broke up the conversation. She said that, yeah, Ibu, you also told me that if people ask me whether you're Bugis or Malay or Javanese, just say you're Malay. Don't say you're Bugis, else you won't get married. So that actually launched a sense of quest for me to find out why is the name Bugis so bad. Okay? It's like a profanity. And when I was a little boy, when I was naughty, my parents wouldn't scold me. Typical Asian parents, that's Setan or Bodoh or what, no? They'll call me Bugis. So the word Bugis is much more hurtful than anything else. So I try not to misbehave to be branded Bugis. However, when during Hari Raya, when I went to my uncle's place, they said that I asked my auntie, because most of the historical narratives and stories were well kept by the ladies, the lady folks compared to the men. The guys just don't care. Even my father, Jazadul Abdul Rashid, knows my father. Right? He don't care about all this. But my aunties and my grandmothers and my grand-aunties, they kept all these stories. And they say, Sarafian, you are a Bugis. Your lineage is a Bugis. You are the 6th generation of Bugis that came to Singapore in the year 1790. I say, wow, that's cool. So I started to create my genealogy. Okay, that was in 2006, 2007. When social media came about in 2008, I started to post all these little Bugis tidbits on my Facebook to find out how many Bugis people are there in Singapore. And to my surprise, there were quite a handful. Okay, to cut the story short, all in all, until today, about 4,000 people who claim they are Bugis in Singapore. And I started to write lots of notes, notepads, postings through social media, and I started to decide to just compile this into a little booklet. And that's where in 2009 I met with Zainul Abidin Rashid. I told him that I want to write a book, remember? MKAC. That was in 2009. But it's still very, very amateurish, still novice, still a beginner. But I started to gather information. Now, how do I gather the information? It's through genealogy. I believe genealogy is one of the best tools to gather stories. People tell me to use DNA to check, but DNA is very, 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 very vague. When I did my DNA, I've got like hundreds of relatives in Philippines, 50 relatives in Netherlands, and so on. So it's not really that accurate. But you have names, and they have all the direct bloodline. But the most important thing that I really cling on to was genealogy. And it took me like 7 to 8 years to gather all the people in my family, including some of my enemies in Facebook, which is my cousin. So, we start to get together and we start to create the story. And I also discovered my Hokkien side, because my maternal mother is, my maternal grandmother is a Hokkien. Her name is Annie Ui. My maternal grandfather is Jan Fred Pala, a Dutch. So I put that aside. I focus on my paternal side and I look for my Bugis genealogy and confirm that I am a Bugis. Now, Bugis is very unknown as a person or as an ethnic community in Singapore. Probably between the 70s to the 90s, when we were very busy with industrialization, so we don't really care so much. Or maybe it's just me. But when I start to look through social media, I realized that people don't really see much of the Bugis community. But then the Bugis names like Bugis Street, Bugis Junction, Bugis MRT stations, it's quite big. So there is a reason for that. So I start to dive into the genealogy and dive into the history of my family. So I have lots of things that I rediscover. Okay, the Bugis were a very small lot of people in the Malay minority. Then from that on, I just keep gathering information about the Bugis. So it's very interesting. Places like Bugis Junction or Kallang. So most of my stories were not built through my family, but was built through the relatives and friends that know my grandfather. Okay, then how I promote this Bugis awareness is what you see today. I brought in lots of fabrics, I brought in lots of shirts, costumes, and I sell it to friends who are Bugis, just to make sure the Bugis became prominent again in Singapore. Okay, so of course, I mean, along the way, I start to bring back the tradition, because there is nothing, virtually nothing. In fact, like things like food like burasak or coto Makassar, you don't really find it in our streets. So it's quite a challenge for me to bring back the Bugis history and existence back to Singapore, as compared to the Javanese or the Minangs, where they have their nasi padang and pariam no more already. So they are always there to project. But for the Bugis, it's very, very challenging. And I think I met some of my friends like the Chris collector, Tengku Shahizan, is it? Yeah, he's there. So I have things like the Malay dagger, the Chris. So Chris, the songkoks, the sarongs are something tangible for me to collect and project my Bugisness. Because we don't have, food is not really that common. Okay, that's why if you look at let me stand again. I've got to share with you, because this is a very rare thing for you to see. You'll see people wearing sarong or batiks, but wearing a Bugis costume is very, very rare. Okay, so like the Bugis, if they're happy with all the audience, they will normally tilt their songkok to the right side to show they are happy, But if the food has less salt or it's not really nice, I'll tilt to the left. So there are lots of things you can see about on the Bugis attire. Okay, the Bugis, unlike the Javanese or the Minangs, where they have floral patterns or animal patterns, for the Bugis, it's just checkered. It's just checkered. Because when Islam came to Sulawesi officially in 1604, they abolished all those pattern fabrics. And so this checkered pattern is influenced by the Indian fabric, and the gold thread is by the Chinese. So we merge it together and get this Bugis fabric. Okay, then this is something very Dutch. We don't wear shirt at the time. We just wear like a thin linen jacket and no buttons. But when Islam came about, we start to be more decent to wear. Okay. So this is the Bugis costume. Of course, for the Bugis, they always wear the crease in front. Okay, this is called a badik. Okay, it's a Bugis sidearm. So all these things are something that I collect. I try to portray myself as what the Bugis looks like, because you can't see anything in terms of food or even like pantones. So the costume is something very important. Something to take away. If you look at the pattern of the fabric and you take a picture of this, you use AI to pixelate it, you'll get the same logo as Bugis Plus color. Okay? All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Vivienne. I recall, I mean, I have a grand uncle who is Bugis, and he's the sweetest
Bugis are the
person, and
sweetest
he's
people.
not so fierce. He's, in fact, we know all the cousins will go to him, and he was like,
Bugis are more kawaii than anything else.
okay, yeah, all right. So let's hear now from Dr. Vivienne Wee.
Do you know that the word, English word boogeyman is from Bugis?
Yes, I know.
Actually, mine is very short. I became interested in my Malay heritage because my great-grandmother is Suku Bonai. Suku Bonai is, I never heard the word Bonai until I asked two friends of mine in Pekanbaru in Sumatra, who are the indigenous people who are living on the in Bagan Siapi, and they said Suku Bonai. So a lot of the Suku Bonai women married the Chinese men. So Bagan Siapi is known as Hokkien town. But you see, the thing is, we also have to be aware that kinship systems differ. Like Nora said this morning, the Batak system is very patrilineal, which means they ignore the women. So up to now, I don't know my great-grandmother's name. I don't have a single Suku Bonai relative because she was inducted into the Chinese family. That's all I have to say.
Thank you, Vivienne. Yeah, I think that aspect about silencing of like some members of the family, like what in the case that Vivienne was talking about just now, makes it very, very difficult. When you're trying to research and find out. Yeah, but I hope you might one day encounter somebody who says, I'm from Pegan, Singapore. Okay, yeah. So thank you, and we'll now listen, the story from Zul.
Yeah, good afternoon. My name is Muhammad Zulkifli Rahmat. I'm a retiree now, but before that I've worked with Britannian for about 40 years there. And retired as a deputy editor. My ancestry search, I can't exactly tell when actually I started it, but well, in 2008, my father, who was already 89 then, made a trip to Bangkok. His first trip to Bangkok in almost 50 years. He was trying to reconnect with his half-siblings, 2 sisters and a brother. Spent some time there, talked with the other relatives, even got help from the one-time media newspaper and put out his story saying that he's looking for his half-siblings. At the end of the trip, he didn't get to meet any of them. So it was sad for him. So he returned to Singapore. When I heard it, I thought I had to do something. That this man has a lot of stories to tell about his family, his beginnings, his rebuilding his life in Singapore. So, but thinking about wanting to do something is different from actually doing it. So you put it aside and procrastinate. Not that because you're too lazy, but because you're also tied up with work and building up your own family. So 2 years passed. In 2010, I decided that I must do something. Even then, I didn't get to start again. In 2011, my wife said, you said you wanted to do study your ancestry search and write a book about it. I said, okay, I'll start. So in that year, 2011, I started some work on it, started gathering information, interviewed my father, interviewed my eldest sister, who was also about around 72 then. And then this is what, they were the, I think my father was the oldest living relative among, from his generation. So he was the only person I could talk to about life in the past. And then a good thing that at that age, when he was already 92, his memory was still good. He could tell me a lot of things, but I couldn't get things about, know things about my mother's side. But because of my father, I managed to dig up some information from him too about my mother's side. When I started it, I was thinking of doing just, you know, about my parents and their family, which is my siblings and myself and my grandparents. But as I was doing the work, I realized that I couldn't put aside my parents' siblings too. So my uncles, my aunties, so I included them in the project. In order to do that, I had to go to my other relatives, my cousins, my second cousins, and I had to call them. I texted them and I said, I need some info. Your family members' names as they are spelled in their birth records. If there are any, their birth dates and their date of death, if they were in the family. So I managed to do that, and within a year, I collected a lot of data from the interviews, from the information that each family gave me. Then I subscribed to a certain website called myheritage.com, which I had to pay for. And the good thing about it is that you just input the data into the website, and it creates the family trees for you. So from that, I created the main family tree. I think if you put the family tree together, it will cover up a whole wall of a room. Then, of course, some relatives were skeptical when I tried to get some data from them, especially the very personal data like date of birth and date of death. But I had to explain to them that I was doing this work. So when they were clear about about my objective, they were very forthcoming. So they shared a lot of their data for me. But certain info, I still need to go to the families and talk to the family members, because I barely know what their father did, what their mother did what work they do, what they were involved in, if they were in business, that kind of thing. So, and the families were also very forthcoming. They talked to me quite freely. So with all this data and info compiled, I finally managed to put it into a kind of a book, and finally got it printed, not with any special printers, but just using a home laser printer, which I invested in. Then put the book together. The only expensive thing about putting this book together is having to send it out for hardcover binding. We at that time called about $10 per copy. Printed about 30 copies of them, distributed the copies to all my relatives, at least one for each family, and some families got two. They were happy with the product, but there was some feedback, and because of this feedback and encouragement, I managed to put out a second edition, a revised edition. Because the first edition, because some of them were skeptical about whether this, I was serious about my work. So they didn't give me some photos or So when I decided to do a second revision, I told them, I'm coming up with a second version. Can you come up, give me your photos then? So many of them actually contributed photos, and the second revised edition had more photos for the family trees. All in all, I'm quite happy with the project because finally my father was, about 93, 94, he got to see the final product. He got to see the book in his hand because in a year later, in 2014, he passed on. I think that's about it, about what I have done for my family ancestry search.
Thank you very much, Zul, for sharing with us that very touching story. I'm so glad that your wife pushed you to take that next step. It really shows that, it takes a woman to make sure things get done. Right? So let's hear now from Nora.
Hello. Horas, as we say in Bahasa Batak. Yeah, it means, I think in Hawaii they say aloha, is similar. It's a word that we use. It means selamat, I suppose, because if you are healthy, then you are horas. My name is Nora Samosir. Samosir is my marga. Marga is our word for family name, clan name. I was born in Kandang Kerbau Hospital. I was conceived in Tapanuli. My mother came, she was already pregnant with me when she married my father. My father was a perantau. You mentioned merantau as a cultural feature of the Nusantara. And you also, Dr. you mentioned that a lot of perantau would marry local Malay women. And it happens, that's why we have Baba Peranakan people as well, right? My father, 10 years merantau, he went back to his huta. Okay, we say mangarato. So it kind of sounds like Malay. Linguistically, it's all related. A lot of the Indonesian languages come from the Malayo-Polynesian linguistic branch. And so we say pangarato, which means perantau. Mangarato means merantau. And our word for kampung is huta. So mulak to huta, went back to his kampung. And you know, everyone was like, oh, we thought you died, you went away for 10 years. And those were the days when they didn't have handphones. Or even write letters. And married, they said, oh, since you're back, you must get married. And my mother at that time had given up thinking of getting married. She was 29, school teacher, couldn't be bothered to get married, but she was persuaded, this is your last chance. And, oh, she's gonna take you into Singapore. Singapore, oh, sounds like a fun place to go to. So she said yes, and here I am with my brother and my sister who are here with me. So, Tarombo, yeah, in Bahasa Indonesia, silsilah, and there are two books, Silsilah Marga Marga Batak, the genealogy of the Batak clan names from the National Library Singapore. There are two copies of this book, one in the reference section and this one you can borrow out. And, okay, this is my father's, my brother's actually, he's passed it on because my father updated it. This is my brother's genealogy. And at the very top is Si Raja Batak. So we are 29 generations from the first person to be identified as Batak. And the reason why we can have this is because Tarokbo, as we call, the pronunciation is Tarokbo, is the very heart of Batak culture. You are not a Batak if you don't know your Tarompo. That's basically it. Because every adat hangs on your Tarompo. Every kenduri, whatever you want to say in Malay, every feasting, any kind of celebration, people are divided into their clan groups. People are divided into the way that they are related to each other. And the next slide, because the Batak culture is based on Dalihan na Tolu. Tolu is 3. I think in Tagalog is Telu. Yeah, in Malay is 3. But Tolu, it means 3. That means, you can see the picture there, kind of. It's not, the Batak people are the pot. But what the Batak people sit on, rest on, is the stove. And the stove has 3 dalihan, 3 pillars. And it needs to be, if you have ever been to kampongs that still have this kind of a stove, it's a bit of a skill to make sure the 3 stones balance your pot well. So we were talking about patrilineage. Yes, when it comes to Tarobbo, my brother's genealogy, his 4 children's names are here, but it was written by my father, because my father was my dad's, and then he added, and he kept adding, and then he was very proud to have 4 grandchildren, and he put their names there as well, including the girls. I wanted to say that Dalihan Natulu is very important, because one of the 3 pillars of society is Soba Marhula-hula, Elek Marboru, Manat Mardonga Tubu. So what is hula-hula? So the Batak culture is based on the nuclear family. As an unmarried woman, I don't exist as a Batak person. I'm just a Batak child. I will never be a grown-up. My brother's smiling, but it's true. I have no position whenever there's adat. I just like do my household chores. I serve people. No matter how old I am, I'll still be serving people. Because the nuclear family, the Tolu, the 3 pillars based on the nuclear family. So the hula-hula is the bride-giving side of the family. So my brother's hula-hula is the same as my dad's hula-hula, because they married the same marga. I'll tell you a bit later. And so the bride-giving side is the hula-hula. And Soba Marhula-hula, Soba is the same as the Malay word sembah. So you have to honor your wife's family. So, and as a Batak person, even on gravestones, husband and wife's name have different surnames. We do not give up. We are forever, I'm forever in my clan, in my marga. I never give it up. All right? So on gravestones, you will see 2 names, because often people in Batak cultures bury husbands and wives together. And so the nuclear family must respect, honor the wife's side. Elek Marboru. Elek is to persuade, to manja, kind of using our slang word. Marboru. Boru means daughter or girl, right? So your sisters, you must persuade them, you must manja them. If they have problems, they're supposed, if I have a problem with my husband, if I'm married, I will complain to my brother. My brother will scold him. That kind of thing. Yeah? So as a man, if your sisters come to you for help, you cannot say no. All right? And the last one, manat mardongan tubu. Manat is be careful. Mardongan is friend, to have a friend. Dongatubu means your friend in birth. If you can try and pass it out, your friend in birth means your sibling lah. But in terms of tarobbo, in terms of the genealogy, that means in your patrilineal. So everyone in your marga, your cousins, your male cousins, and I'm speaking for my brother, your male cousins, your uncles, your grandnephews, your grandsons, you must be careful with them. Don't anyhow treat them. So all 3, Soba, Elek, Manat, are very careful. These are terms of how to behave as human beings. But it recognizes that the family Any human society depends on these three-legged, because two legs can topple, you know. We are easily topple. 3 legs, very steady. Right? So, you're talking about your book. Okay, this is Raja Parhoris Haryanja. So, within the Batak surnames, there are about more than 100. And within each surname, there are also subdivisions. All right? So, one big family of surnames are called Raja Lotung. And Raja Lotung is 4 from Si Raja Batak. He's the 4th generation. This is the genealogy of all those that my brother and I are related to, of our Haryanja. And Haryanja is 10 generations from Si Raja Lotung. Si Raja Lotung is 4 generations from Si Raja Batak. So this contains 16, 17 generations of names, everybody, patrilineal, but everybody who was related to Parhoris Haryanja. This is our sub-clan. Our Samosir have a few sub-clans. And just to finish up, these Tarobo in Singapore, as I mentioned before, I'm a member of the Hakka Huria Kristen Batak Protestant, which is the Christian Batak Protestant Church, which is the largest Protestant church in Indonesia. And, thank you, I have a minute. And we have a diaspora. And our Samosir clan is part of another sub-clan called Raja Sonang. And there are four clans in Raja Sonang group: Gultum, Samosir, Pakpahan, Sitinjak. And these 4 clans are represented in our church. And we treat each other like brothers and sisters. And we make fun of other margas. So this is our marga, this is our clan group, and they make fun of us. I see these Raja Sonang people. So there are layers of clan memberships, and it depends on where you are, right? So in the Huta, then it's just your 3 generations. But in Singapore, you go back 16 generations and still consider yourself brothers and sisters. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Nora. Now I know who to send my students to. Anyone who wants to research on the Batak, I'll send them to you. Thank you. Okay, and now, last but not least, I'd like to invite Ronnie to share his search. Yeah, thank you.
Hi, I'm Ronnie here, Ronnie Tan. I'm now president of the Genealogy Society Singapore. Now, just a little tribute to Mr. Ng Yu Kang. He founded the society in 2012, and now he has grown to have more than 100 members. And we have very interesting members. And just came back this morning from a China trip to Shanxi. Now, Shanxi, according to the people there, my family were part of a migration. More than about less than 1,000 years ago, they moved down from Henan and Shanxi down to Fujian province. There was a sort of a forced migration because of there was this the structural inequality of the geographical situation in China. Certain areas were more I would say, more populous and more prosperous. So the government at that time wanted to equalize this, and they moved this down. Now the effects of this was only felt a few generations later. So initially, some of the people had to suffer this migration. Okay, now coming back to my family, how I started into this ancestry. Now, if you look at the screen there, in 1939, my grandfather, Taring Chai, he asked a professional genealogist, this person called Reverend Ye Hua Fen. He was a church layman, and he helped to compile from our family records of papers, from the ancestral tablets and tombstone names and all that. And he put together in a book and with a brief history of our family. And on the left there, you see the original doesn't exist anymore because after my grandfather passed away in 1964, the whole collection of documents was sold to a collector. So I don't know who is this collector, but I suppose he's not alive today. So I don't know where these documents are. They're somewhere in the world today, I don't know where. Now, but the document on the left is interesting because it mentions the marriage of our second ancestor. Now, his father came from China somewhere around 1780 or so. He went over to Batavia to trade for about 10 over years. And he may have married and formed a family nucleus in Batavia. And then surprisingly, around 1795, he went to Malacca. Now, there's only one historical event at that time. It was when the British took over Malacca from the Dutch. So I suppose he must have maybe left his family behind to seek another fortune. I don't know. And I asked a NTU professor who was well versed in Old Dutch, and he translated the Dutch marriage certificate for me. And he says something like, having received permission from the Chinese Capitan, this couple, Tan Beng Chong, a Chinese, is now going to marry Yeo Sui Neo, daughter of Yeo Sui Su of Malacca. And the person who has signed the document there, the certificate, this is a handwritten certificate. Now it's Peter Overy. Now some of you might know among your Eurasian friends the Overy family, but I don't know any Overys. Okay. Okay. And then there is also the date there, which is very auspicious because it's stated there February 1821. So I suppose they must have got married somewhere during Chinese New Year. Okay? Now, this person here on the right here, now she doesn't look Chinese at all because she was from Bali. And it was a practice in those days for many Balinese, what you call, slaves. They were bought by Chinese families in Malacca. Because the men who came from China, they left their villages without their wives or their girlfriends or whatever. So they came over to this region and they took local wives. Some of the local wives could be Minangkabau, could be Bugis, could be even Batak. Yes, and we have evidence of some of our families in Malacca who have got Batak ancestors. And this lady here, she died in 1953. And you can see that she's wearing a baju panjang. And her surname, Ong, is actually she took after her employer's first wife, who is Ong Hwai Tong. So when this Ong Hwai Tong, the first wife, passed away, she became the second wife. And she was at that time the maid in the house. And she bore the master, my great-grand-uncle, Tan Jin Kiat, daughter. And this daughter came out very, very dark. Okay? Now, the next slide, please. Okay, if you look at this obituary here from 1926, now this was when I came across, when doing some research for a book on our family association called Keng Teng Wei, I came across this obituary, and curiously there were some familiar names. And I asked my uncle, who knows this family of Tan Teck Jun, Tan Teck Sin, etc. Now I know that Tan Teck Jun is my mother's grandfather. So I inquired further, and there was this name there, Law Chin Chai. Law Chin Chai, I said, yeah, it's Lao Chin Chai. Lao Chin Chai is my mother's father. So I inquired further and hit the jackpot. Now, that started this long journey of searching into my mother's genealogy, because we've already done the 1939 genealogy book on my father's side. Okay, so over the last 20 years, I've managed to complete the family tree of my mother's side. It took us 20 years, and just 2 years ago, we managed to find a missing link to this gentleman called Tan He. Now, Tan He has produced many important descendants, people like Tan Cheng Lock, people like our uncle Robert Yeo here, and Dr. Goh Keng Swee, and the Tan Siu Sin, and people like Peter Lee. These are all among our relatives. Okay, next slide, please. Okay, these are the our family tree. Now, you see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Including the first generation who came from China, will be 8 generations. Okay? And these are the pictures of our ancestors. The second generation there on the left. Now, these 2 portraits have been donated to the NUS Museum. They were kindly arranged by Peter Lee to have it conserved and preserved. So they've been donated to the museum. Now, the gentleman over here on the right here with the botak head there, now that's he is wearing a queue. Now, he crossed the 1911 era when the Manchu government collapsed in 1911. So in 1912, he had to cut off his tochang, right? And this lady here, his wife, is a descendant of a Capitan China from the Chua family. They go back about something like 9 generations back to Malacca, right? Now, next slide, please. Okay, no more slides, sorry. Okay, just briefly, I was motivated to do ancestry research because my father gave me the book to read, and that started my interest in ancestry. So there was also this book called 100 Years History of the Chinese in Singapore. Now that book was written by Sir Song Ong Siang, and it had a marvelous compilation of biographies of the Chinese. And among the people that we feature today are also Uncle Robert Yeo's ancestors. Okay, what we know is that when I went back to China in 2019, we went back to this home village called Longhai. Previously it was known as Haiteng, but in 1960 it was restructured and it became Longhai, sorry. And it is very near this river called the Chulongjiang. Now, a lot of our Baba Chinese came from both sides of this river. Now, I'm still doing some research with the Genealogy Society of Singapore, and we're still going back to China, and we're also making trips. Now, for those of you who are interested, we might be going to Henan in our next trip. So look out for advertisement, huh? Yeah. Okay? Now, one last point. Okay, one interesting point is that my mother's ancestor, he was a founding member of King Teck Hui. And my father's ancestor, this gentleman called Tan Ping Chong, was also a founding member of King Teck Hui. Yeah. So it's very propitious or just a coincidence that 2 of them married each other.
Okay.
Okay.
I
Thank you very much.
We have to suspend that for a while because, thank you, Ronnie. Thank you very much. And thank you everyone in the panel. I know you all have questions, so do I, but we have to welcome the guest of honor today. So I'd like to invite all the panelists to join me also at the lift. Thank you very much. I'll pass this on to Sean.
Yes, thank you. President Ronnie and Dr. Suryani and our family researchers.